Hey everyone, Andrew here, and at the beginning of this month, I went on a small hiatus, but we're back and ready for the new year. Now, 2020 was crazy, but in all seriousness, it was great as we continue to see the show's listener base grow, and we owe it to you for coming back and sharing the show with others. Now, if you haven't yet and would like to show even more support, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/IGM podcast, or write a review on Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. It can go a long way. In whatever capacity you show your support, we really do appreciate it, so thank you so much. Also, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Dakota, who kindly reached out to me and offered his time to share some amazing tips on how to improve the audio quality of the show. Again, I can't thank all of you enough for the support you give us. It truly means a lot. So with that said, let's get to the show. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas. I'm going to be your host today, and this is episode 142, where we are going to be talking about how to execute some Killah Crowdfunding Part 2. All right, so hindsight is always 2020, but knowing how to look at things and apply your learnings is more important than just acknowledging them, especially when it comes to crowdfunding campaigns. That's why in today's episode, we meet again with Mikhail of Mythallica Incorporated in part 2 of episode 137, How to Execute a Killah Crowdfunding Campaign. To get further insight how to approach and apply learnings, maximize their impact, and that you should always expect the unexpected. So that's what we're going to be talking about right here today on Indie Game Movement. Hey everybody, we're back, and as I briefly mentioned in the introduction, we have Mikhail here from Mythallica Incorporated. Mikhail, how's it going, buddy? And thank you so much for coming back and doing part 2 of this episode.
Oh man, it's going great, and thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we really appreciate it too because this is kind of a first thing for us on the show, doing a 2-part episode during your crowdfunding campaign. And for those of you who aren't familiar or didn't tune into the first episode, it was how to execute a Killah crowdfunding campaign. And a lot of what we talked about there is episode 137. So if you'd like a little bit more context, we're going to provide you some real quick. But if you'd like a little bit more, it was 137. And specifically, the campaign was running mid-October. And the excuse me, it was on Indiegogo. And it was specifically for a demo build, which we addressed in that conversation, which is a little bit unconventional in terms of what most people are running, right? And it was for the upcoming game, Serial Killahs. And a lot of what we talked about in that episode was specifically the preparation that took place, the planning and everything else like that, the communities that you leveraged, and, of course, the execution of the campaign strategies you guys developed. And even we tapped a little bit into the feelings and emotions that kind of came with that. Would you say that's a good recap of everything that we talked about?
Oh, no, yeah, definitely. You covered all the bases. We spoke on how, in these situations, a lot of the times you usually have a demo to give the contributors as the campaign is running. And for us to be running a campaign for a demo was unconventional. But yeah, I think that covers it all well. Yeah.
Okay. Now, before we go in a little further, I'm not going to do a whole nother Q box round with Mikhail here. But you'll have to check out the previous episode for that if you'd like, or visit the show notes for 137. But in general, how have things been going without sharing really any details about, outside of the campaign? How have you been? Have you been busy? I'm just curious, how have you been doing all this time since then?
Yeah, I feel like probably like everyone else, just taking it day by day.
Yeah.
It's all we can do, right? Other than that, I've been working on some animated projects that I'm coming up to completing now, which have really been taking up a lot of my life because it's animation, so it does that. But yeah, just trying to keep my daily routine going as I keep work going, just meeting deadlines and so that's what I've been doing personally, alongside of just getting stuff ready for CKZ for the rest of this year.
Yeah, awesome. And one question I do have to ask you now is, what have you been playing lately?
The last game I played, and I haven't been able to play it in a while because I've been just working too much, was Miles Morales on PlayStation 5. Really dope game. Man, love it. Really great game. I can't wait to finish it when I get some time. But yeah, I've been vibing out to that for a good minute.
Awesome. Honestly, I think I've just been out of the loop a bit much, so I haven't heard much, but definitely sounds like you're enjoying yourself with that. So good to hear, and hopefully soon you'll have some more, at least a little bit more downtime so you can get back into it.
Oh man, I'm praying, bro. Praying.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to get back into it by kicking off right away here. And I'm sure the question that everybody else is really curious on, wanting to know, is, was your campaign successful in obtaining its funding goal? And can you share your general thoughts of the end result?
Yeah. It was successful, in the short answer. As far as general thoughts, I would say the lesson that I personally learned was things work out in ways that you may not expect them to work out, but they work out. Oh,
okay.
So that was the lesson that I got from it, and it's just, I'm grateful for that.
All right, cool. So I'm sure we're going to dive into that a little bit more in terms of how things can happen that you never necessarily anticipate, right? I mean, that's kind of how life works in general, but and you would expect it to. You can always have a plan with something, but that doesn't mean that other things won't pop up and such. So
exactly.
All right, cool. Well, why don't we dive in a little bit further? So basically, the campaign was successful, but we're gonna obviously dig in a little bit more to find out how it was. So, but first things first. Now that it's in the past and everything, I'm sure there's always going to be something that you'd want to do differently. So I want to lead this discussion with, you had a fairly large community that was very supportive of this campaign. Do you feel that there could have been ways or mechanisms in which their support could have been amplified to gain additional support from new backers or fans?
Yeah. Definitely. I think, there's always ways to improve the marketing strategies, especially in situations like these. I do think, though, if anything, if there's one area where I'd like to make the most adjustments, it would probably be preparing more material leading up to the campaign, and maybe more of a marketing strategy in the months leading up to the campaign. I think that could have probably helped bring in more backers and more fans to really stockpile, those people on board. But I think for what we were able to do, and still be able to reach our goal, one way or the other, was, just happened to kind of work out. So, but retrospect always gives you opportunities to kind of be like, yeah, I'm going to do that different maybe next time, or I'm going to do that a little bit different next time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, I think it's good to say too, where a lot of people, whether they put a lot of planning in forth, which, as we discussed last episode with you, that you guys definitely did. But even with that, and I mean, because it was approximately like a 6-month time period or more that you guys kind of knew you were going to take this approach. But even with that understanding and knowing that you were going to do this, you still could have put a little bit more forth with planning, at least from the marketing front, or even with having more material too.
Exactly. And actually, in my mind, see, the way I saw it was, I think where the campaign ended, we had about half of our goal. So I thought, man, maybe if we took like double the time that we marketed everything, that would have been the other half.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
that's kind of how I imagine it in my head. So when that retrospect set in, it was like, okay, so I know next time to really build it up, like build it up as much as you can, but do it in a way that's strategic and authentic. That doesn't just feel like, like a corporate hype. You know what I mean? Like you want it to be something that actually feels like it's worth the hype, or else, the end result probably won't be what you're looking for.
Yeah. I think the keyword that you used there was authentic too.
Mm-hmm.
Cause
definitely.
Cause sometimes like, or in the corporate, maybe other way to view that would be salesy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. All right. Well, another thing I'm curious about, because I noticed that this was something that you had going on. I did consider doing it myself, but I just got sidetracked and didn't. But outside of the rewards that you were offering within the campaign, you also had open auditions for voice actors. Mm-hmm. And I was just curious, like, how was this process in general? And did you see this as another means to create more awareness for this campaign?
Yeah, I think we definitely did. What we didn't foresee, though, was the turnout, the response. I mean, it was just really mind blowing.
Wow. Okay.
To see just kind of how voice actors, when you turn on the bat signal for voice actors, they come, and it was really awesome. It was really awesome to see. But yeah, I would say that was probably like the peak of the campaign, and I think that's third. It got us the most followers, the following boost on Twitter. It really helped push the content out on Twitter even more. That was towards the end of the campaign, though. So we had already, been talking to our private investor at that time. So we were just kind of TikToking the days until it was time.
Yep.
But yeah, we actually just announced the cast Thursday, actually, and we put up a little video showing everyone playing their part, and people are really excited about it.
Yeah, so at the time that this airs, everyone, it will be about 5 days or so since that announcement went out, but it's totally worth checking out just to see, the cast or the voice actor cast too. I really think that was that what you guys did there was pretty awesome, because a lot of times too, when people are setting up campaigns and stuff, there's like you would expect, they would really focus on the game itself, right? And specifically, mm-hmm. But we talked a bit about communities in general and how you and your team already had a pretty big community outside of some of the other work that you've done with, through your animation and such. But mm-hmm. What I think is really great here, because you were using voice actors, and I would like to add too, if I remember correctly, you weren't just soliciting or opening it to professional voice actors. Obviously, they could come forth, but it was anyone who was just interested in that role and applying for it, right? So, mm-hmm. An amateur or just someone who thought it would be cool to be part of that. You had that open. So, but what I really want to say here is you found another way to kind of tap into a whole other community that specifically isn't necessarily game related. You could say indirectly it definitely could be, but still it just seemed pretty interesting. And you even said that when you made that announcement for people to audition for that role, you even saw a spike in everything else. So it just goes to show how being a little bit creative while still keeping some of the certain aspects of your project in mind that are required can even tap into other communities that you normally wouldn't have thought about.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about it is when we started it all, we wanted everyone to know that, especially people that were auditioning, that, we're not just looking at the game. This isn't just for the game. This is for, the Netflix series down the line, or this is for any animated spinoff, whatever kind of IP related thing that these characters that we really believe once this game is finished in the forefront are going to become iconic in their own right. We want to be able to offer anyone the opportunity to become these iconic characters. And, there's a lot of talented people out there. There's a lot of talented people out there that just aren't given the opportunity to show their talent as often. So when we went into it, the first thing we said was, we're going to just try to give people, opportunity to actually show their skills. And